All right, so Felix, you just graduated from Executive Physiques. How long were you in the program for?
I started off at 220 and I'm down to 175, so 45 pounds down. So I did the 1 year program. So it's been 2 weeks since I graduated. And yeah, it's been great. I think that the year was really hard. Obviously, like when you set your mind to do things like this, like, it is a challenge, but I'm now reaping the benefits of it for sure. I'm on my own now, and I can tell that what I learned during the program is sticking with me. Um, yeah, it's been great.
How much weight have you lost in that year?
Yeah, so initially my goal when working with Coach Austin when I started the program, the goal was 40. But as we were kind of towards the end of the program, we realized, we can do more than 40. So we had a stretch goal of 50 and, made it to 45. So it's a great like halfway point, and I'm still working towards the 50-pound mark. Obviously, it is a challenge that, I have to continue working on, but I feel like with the foundations and all of the stuff that I learned at Executive Physiques and like listening to my body and all these things, like it is achievable. So, yeah, that's currently what I'm working towards, going 50 pounds down.
Yeah, and it's crazy because when you first joined, and when we had our call over a year ago now, I think you told me you felt sluggish and kind of lethargic, and I see you were going on runs, and are you still running?
Mhm.
Like, tell me about that.
Yeah. So I definitely started running when I started the program last year just to, get some movement in, but also Milwaukee, where I'm at, is really nice in the summer and in the spring when it's not, hellishly cold. But it just inspired me to just like get out and run and, instead of being in the gym all the time, just trying to get more physical activity in and just kind of move my body in new ways. So it's been on the colder side this year. So I haven't been out for runs, but it should be warming up in the next couple of days. And I think that running will be, added to my routine as I was doing last year, just because I really felt like, when I first started, I felt like I was pushing myself and in a way that I wasn't used to. But now I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I can go for a longer run. I can continue pushing myself. And, something that might have been a hassle now is just a way for me to celebrate my body and all the progress that I've made.
No, I love that. So a lot of men, before they've started the weight loss, they always are afraid they're going to gain it back. And we have all these things nowadays. We have different peptides, we have GLP-1s, we have all these restrictive diets. Everybody knows about that. You've lost all the weight you wanted to lose, essentially. Are you worried that you're going to gain it back, or do you feel like you'll be able to maintain it? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah. So that was one of my fears leaving the program as well. It's hard to kind of let go of the railing and not have like a safety net or feel like you don't have a safety net. But as I quickly realized, I've maintained this discipline throughout the last year that has made my progress possible. And that's not something that, ending the program can take away. It's something that my body just knows. It's something that, I've learned to look at nutrition labels and kind of be more in tune with what I'm eating, but also, how's my body feeling and all of those things. And now, 2 weeks since I graduated, I've um, been going back and forth on weight, but it's been consistently, um, in that like 175, 177, and it hasn't gone past that. So that just really speaks to the discipline that I've maintained throughout this time. And, there's no hand holding. So it's just me right now. And just knowing that I'm still committed to myself and my journey is great because that's what keeps pushing me forward. I think it's really easy to think, well, I lost this weight, I'm going to put it back on, But what you don't realize is throughout the year, you're making these lifestyle changes that really stick with you. And I'm no longer the same person that I was, a year before. And I don't mean that just like in a physical sense, but rather, like mentally and spiritually, you know, I've evolved and I feel like I've grown to a place where, I'm giving my partner, fitness tips and helping him with nutrition and stuff like that, teaching him some of the stuff that I learned and some of the stuff that worked for me, just because I saw the results and I feel it in my body. I know what I'm doing now. And so, that's not something that once you leave the program, you're gonna, forget, right? It's not how it works.
Absolutely. Do you feel like it's easier now just being a fit person, like these habits? Is it easier now than it was when you first joined? Or like does it get easier over time? Does it get harder?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely gotten easier for me. Just, going to the gym, and dedicating that time to myself has been a constant throughout this year. And so there are moments where, I might not feel like going to the gym, but then I just miss it and I'm just, antsy to get out and move my body, right? Regardless if it's pushing myself to the limit or, just going on the treadmill or whatever, like my body just wants that movement. And so I feel like baking that piece into my lifestyle has also been a huge change, you know. Um, Taking into consideration that it's only an hour of my time a day, I can do an hour of my day and dedicate it to myself, to my fitness, to, my mental health, all of those things. And it's not easy at first, but the more you do it and the more committed you are to yourself, um, definitely the easier it gets. Also, I think that you just enjoy challenging yourself, right? Now I'm trying to lift heavier, trying new exercises at the gym that I typically wouldn't do. One of my goals was to do pull-ups without any sort of like assist, and I've been doing that at the gym. Am I, doing 25? No, but that's something that I'm working towards, and just showing up every day really makes a difference.
Absolutely. In retrospect, looking back at where you were at, like physically, mentally before joining the program, is it kind of surprising, like that you let yourself get to that point and that you didn't kind of do all of this like years sooner?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, for me at least, just knowing when to ask for help. And I think that for the longest time, I was doing it all. I thought I was eating well, I was exercising, and I was, going to the gym, but I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted. So there comes a point where you just have to realize, like, I need help and I need the guidance of somebody. And I feel like that's a huge step in the process. But once you kind of just like let go of that and embrace, other people helping you get to where you want to go, I feel like that's when you are really committed to yourself. I would say like I was half committed, where it's like, yeah, I'm eating well, yeah, I go to the gym, but am I doing it disciplined? Am I working towards like a goal specifically? Am I really pushing myself, right? And I feel like the program gave me that support. It gave me that push that I needed to be where I am today.
Absolutely. And I know that you originally joined the program for 6 months and you ended up extending for another 6 months. Are you glad you
Yeah.
did that? Do you think that if you hadn't done that, things would be differently now? Like, curious about that.
Yeah, I definitely think that extending to a year was the right choice. I feel like it gave me a lot of stability during like uncertain times at work, for example. It just kept me focused on reaching this goal. And, I with so many things happening, in my life, it was just good to have this one constant thing that I was committed to, which was my health and, my mental health, myself. And the person that I started out a year ago is not who is here like talking to you right now.
Yeah.
I'm a more confident version of myself. I feel like that also impacted, like the way that I carry myself at work, the way that I like talk about um, my struggles, right? Like kind of accepting that and letting the ego out of the picture, is part of the entire process. But it also just, you might see it as you're breaking down, but I think you're just breaking down so that you could build something stronger. And it's not just physically stronger, but also mentally and um I don't know, like spiritually too. I just feel like I am just this stronger, more headstrong and level person. I used to be really anxious, and I feel like obviously the gym helps a ton with your mental health, but I just feel like um going to the gym, working on my fitness, that's something that I can control. And just showing up for myself is a way to honor that and to, continue working towards a better version of myself.
I really love that. And I love the part where you touched on ego. You're like, I have to let go of my ego in order to admit, hey, I need to take a couple steps back and kind of go back to rebuilding like my foundational habits. Say, hey, I need help and it's time to invest. It's time to take a step back in order to rebuild and create a better version of you. And yeah, you're definitely
Yeah.
a lot different, man, than a year ago. It's almost like unrecognizable. And I'm curious, do you ever feel like you will need help again with your health and fitness at this point?
Um, I mean, who knows? Like it's like you just said, sometimes you have to take a step back to make progress. But I think that right now I feel comfortable and applying, what I learned during the program. Maybe once I like hit my this goal that I'm working towards, going 50 pounds down, maybe I'll be inspired, be motivated to do other things, right? Like maybe it is just like lifting heavier, like getting bigger muscles, you name it. So who knows? I feel like for now I'm good with the set of skills that I acquired for that goal. But
Yeah.
once you're working towards something else, once you're working on a new goal, on a new project, you might need additional help. So I wouldn't rule it out. Once again, like the ego comes into play. Like I don't know everything, right? The ego tells you that you know everything, and that's not always the case. Like there has to be a moment of reflection and realizing like there's somebody out there that knows more than me that's done this before and I could really benefit from that knowledge versus tackling this by myself and just kind of playing by ear, if you will.
Absolutely. We pride ourselves on helping clients become self-sufficient. So it sounds like if you're wanting to get into a different area of fitness or a different, maybe like, a CrossFit coach or a running coach or
Hmm.
something, maybe, but it seems like you're pretty set at this point where you're not going to ever need
Yeah.
somebody to help you lose weight or how to get comfortable in the gym. You're pretty much, you've got it covered. And I love seeing that.
Yeah,
And
and I thought, once I would leave the program, I thought it's easy for me to just like go to the gym and just kind of do the bare minimum. But, I think that with the time that I'm spending at the gym, being committed to myself, it doesn't make sense for me to go somewhere and not give it my all, right? Like that's something that I've learned that a lot of the times when we think, I'm giving it my all, that's not really our all. It's not our 100%. That's something that I learned during the program. A lot of times I would think, I'm lifting really heavy and then I'm feeling tired, whatever. But then challenging myself the next time I go to the gym, the next time that I do that exercise, I'm going to add 5 pounds to it and, continue pushing myself. That's where I realized, I wasn't giving it my 100%. Like there's always a little bit more that I can give. And I think that that's something that I've taken with me. I don't go to the gym just to give it 50%. I go to the gym and I give it my 100%, 105% on days that I can do it. But it's only because I'm committed to myself, not because I have to check it off of a list or something, or I need to make my coach proud or anything like that. Um, that's something that I've taken. And at the end of the day, I'm doing this for me, not for anybody else.
Absolutely. So, last question here. What would you say to somebody watching this who's in the position you were in before joining, who is uncertain, they've got the weight to lose, but they're nervous, they're skeptical, they've never worked with a coach, they've seen people on Instagram, they've seen all the advertisements, all that, but they don't know if they should do something like this. So what would you say to them?
I mean, for me, I think what really drove me to commit and to join the program was realizing that doing the same thing was going to get me nowhere. And like I said, just removing the ego from the situation and saying, I need the help, I need the extra guidance. What do I have to lose if I join? Like that was kind of my mindset going into it. I have put so much effort and energy um, into fitness, but I didn't really know what I was doing, right? So I think just kind of removing that extra step and having somebody help you and somebody guide you so that you can focus on results, I feel is a huge help. I think that when you're spending so much time trying to figure out, like what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and on top of that, you're handling your personal life and everything else, like it becomes a lot and it's unsustainable. So I feel like um, having that extra help, having that guidance, having somebody that will tell you, this is what you did this week and this is why it worked. This is why you're losing the weight. This is what we can do better without it disrupting like your entire life. I feel like that's something of true value. I feel like a lot of the times, when I was doing stuff on my own, uh, before joining the program, a lot of it was just experimenting, right? I'm gonna eat less today, and I'm gonna work out harder. And a lot of the times, I wouldn't see the results because I didn't know what I was doing. I at some point I was starving myself, and with the program, something that I learned was I don't have to starve myself to see results. I can eat balanced and having that energy is what's going to ultimately help me reach my goals, right? It's going to help me show up to the gym. It's going to help me push harder. It's going to help me um, continue staying committed because as the numbers go down on the scale and I start feeling stronger and I start feeling more energized, that's where I see the value. And I say, why was I even doubting this in the first place? I would not be here if I were doing this by myself.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great having you in the program, man, and I'm excited to keep checking up on you in the future and see where life takes you and see what you're doing. So,
Yeah, thank you so much, Zach. I really, really appreciate it. I feel like just being out of the program for the last 2 weeks, I've been reflecting, on what changes I've had and like the impact that people have had. And I feel like you've definitely had an impact on my life. And I have the program to thank for that. I also have myself to thank for that. I feel like that's also something that I learned during the program. Like you have to recognize the efforts that you're putting in as well, and that you're the driver of your own success. So um, I feel like that is something that a lot of the times we don't celebrate, and we have to acknowledge, we are drivers of our own success. We have more power than we realize, but sometimes we do need to kind of let go and allow for somebody to help us harness that power.
so well said. All right, man. It's been great speaking with you, and I will talk to you later.
Thank you so much, Zach. I'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.